This week's another pretty big week for Far Cry 6 as the Pagan DLC Control released today, which also means we get a new unique weapon and gear set. And of course, like every Tuesday, Lola is packing some new items in the black market, and there is one item in particular that I think a lot of you will want to get. We will go over all of that and more in this video, so let's get right into it and let's go. So the first thing you will notice when you boot up the game if you have the Pagan DLC or the Season Pass installed is the new weapon appearing in your inventory. There's also a new vehicle, but we're not going to talk about that for too long. It's pretty much just a reskin of the same model we got with the Fast DLC, so why spend time on that when we have a new weapon to discuss? And you might have already seen the gameplay on our second channel Raptor roll, but yes, we have a crossbow now. Don't worry by the way if it doesn't appear immediately in your inventory. It didn't for us either, but after a little while the problem fixed itself and I was able to try it out. And it is of course really cool that both weapons we got with the DLC have been really unique so far. The Mindblower from the Vast DLC had a really unique perk that allowed you to curve bullets, and now we have a crossbow with a magazine and a scope, which is definitely a big departure from the compound and recurve bows we've had so far. And the magazine, which carries 8 bolts by the way on this executioner, is actually a game changer as you don't have to knock each arrow individually, but now you have a fire rate, which actually is surprisingly decent. That being said, I wouldn't go around spraying arrows though, as your ammo capacity is still kind of limited, but the benefit of the executioner being a bow is that you can loot some of your arrows back after killing a target. Even so, I don't think it's ever a good idea to use this as a run and gun weapon, but instead use it as a medium range stealth tool. The scope can make it kind of hard to hit headshots from a longer range, but pretty much anything else than that is an easy target for a headshot. It's a fun, satisfying and definitely unique weapon to use, and especially fans of Far Cry 4 should of course be really happy with this weapon in the game. One final note is that there's also a mod on this weapon, which is the Mark II variant of the deal bonus weapon damage to enemies at low health mod, which isn't really that good and you want to kill most enemies in a single shot with this weapon anyway. And before we move on, if you liked the video so far, remember to leave a like as it really helps us out, and you can also subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss our next Far Cry video. Now the weapon and the vehicle are of course part of the second Season Pass DLC for Far Cry 6, which is all about Far Cry 4's villain Pagan Min. Now I personally haven't played it yet, but Jordan had early access and also streamed it yesterday, so we'll leave a link to that if you want to check the stream out. And speaking of the Raptor himself, Jor, what exactly can we get from playing this new DLC?
Just like with the Fast DLC, you can get a full Pagan Gear Set by playing through the DLC. I think it looks better on female Danny than Voss, although I like the Voss look overall more. So these once again sometimes come with unique perks like improving the weapon damage while focusing on one enemy, mostly nice in the high rank spec ups when you're actually fighting higher health enemies. With the chest you receive pesos from liberating civilians in prisoners' convoys or at roadsides, but I don't find them anymore, so it's kinda useless. Normally a melee attack gives you very little Supremo charge, but now with the new pants you get bonus Supremo from these melee kills, and the difference is totally noticeable, but it's still pretty bad. Unless you like to do a ton of melee hits all the time. Otherwise you can way better just focus on gunshots and get Supremo back that way. I don't know why you would improve walk speed for sprint speed, but you find that on the boots, which actually the same perk as we find on the boots from the Miami strip gear set from the Ultimate Edition. But yeah, I don't know why you would use this, just like the slightly improved damage dealt to tagged enemies. I mean, if you like me, like to use the perception grenade all the time before you go into a camp, then you do extra damage against all those enemies. So it can be nice, but also it's not really needed. So yeah, you mostly want to get these items for the look, and when you boot up the Pagan expansion through the add-on menu, you will immediately see the pieces and the requirements, and they are the same as with the Fast DLC, so it's pretty easy to get them all, and I would suggest that you just do everything in that first playthrough, so make sure that you get all the pieces, because you're then also playing on the easiest difficulty, so I think that's the smartest way to approach it. Make sure that you focus on the health and healing syringe upgrades, and actually the assault rifle is killer this time around, more so than the shotgun. Shotgun's still great, but you want to make sure that you get the SGP and just use that as much as possible. You find it over here, and you once again need to complete all these weapon armories in order to get one of the gear pieces, and also find all the locations. So while you do not need to complete them, it's totally smart to do that, because then you're also closer to getting the 8,000 respect you have to carry around at some point, and also to that 25,000 score you need when finishing the DLC. And you by the way see all the locations right here, so Just look for them, find them. Again, you don't have to complete them. And then you can easily get all the gear pieces.
Thanks, Jordan. Shame that the perks on this new gear set aren't that great, but good news because Lola has a very special item for sale this week, the Mark 7 tac goggles from the newly released Splinter Cell pack. Now, I probably didn't need to tell you that this item comes from a Splinter Cell themed gear set because the look is so iconic, so it's great that when you buy the item you can apply this look to any other piece of headgear in the game. It's also great that we already see some items from this pack, which only released 2 weeks ago in Lola's inventory already. It's not even the only item from the Splinter Cell set, but more on that later because first I want to talk about the perk that comes with these tac goggles, which is a perk you might recognize from the Triada set, the Night Scythe. It's a fitting perk for gear with night vision goggles as it will highlight allies, soldiers and animals at night. This means that during nighttime they will have a unique glow to them that makes them much easier to spot from a distance. And after playing with them a little bit during the insurgency, I can definitely say it makes it much easier to spot enemies if you're raiding bases or checkpoints during nighttime, especially if you're doing it from a long range with a sniper rifle. So, no matter if you want it just for the looks or if you want to use it for some nighttime sneaking, I definitely recommend getting the Mark 7 tac goggles before they are gone. And before we cover the rest of Lola's selection, let's first talk about some items that aren't there anymore, because I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but the MP5 and 1887 were no longer part of the weekly selection for me, even though they have been every week since launch. Now, this might of course be because they're making room for new weapons, which personally I think sounds very exciting, but since there are some other strange things going on with Lola, I think it's actually more likely that this week's selection is a little bit bugged. You see, I compared my available selection with Joyce's, and where I was missing some pieces of the FND set as well, Joyce could see all the pieces in her game, but the chorizo skin that was showing up for me wasn't showing up in hers. However, in both our games the weapon selection was the same, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Let us know in the comments of course if they are gone for you too. But yeah, if it is fully available to you, you have a second chance to get the FND or Defector set from Lola, which is a nice looking set with some pretty decent perks on it too. The chest and pants give you a lot of extra defense and the sway reduction on the gloves is great, especially for sniper rifles. The boots have a unique perk that lets you move faster during a manual heal animation, which means you're less of a sitting duck when healing, and then finally the beret slows down detection speed, which isn't all that exciting to be honest. Still, some pretty decent pieces in this set, so definitely pick it up if you missed it the first time around. And even though some weapons went missing, we also have some newcomers in the weekly selection, and like I mentioned earlier, one of those is from the Splinter Cell pack from the store. The second Echelon SMG is an overclocked variant of the MP7 SMG. I think the skin on it is pretty bland, plus it's pretty much the same as the MP7 as far as mods and attachments go, but of course we lose one mod slot for the overclock mod. And sadly, this is one of those weapons where the base version deals more damage even if you have an overclock mod applied, so it's not an improvement at all in that regard. You do of course get the Mark II mods, which are generally better than their regular counterparts on this one, which kind of make it worth considering. And the other two weekly weapons for this week are the Libertad custom versions of the MP34 and the SVD. The MP34 has the same problem as the second Echelon, where even with the overclock mod the damage of the Libertad custom variant is slightly lower than the base version, but the SVD does deal more damage than the base variant after applying the overclock mod. Then again, scoring a headshot with a sniper should pretty much be enough to kill anything, so I'm not sure how much that damage is going to matter in the end. In terms of attachments and moddability, both are pretty much the same as the original versions as well. So if you want, you can pick up some decent weapons from Lola, but just know that there are better ones available for sure. And the same can definitely be said for the Ticket Please, the unique LMG that's the reward for this week's insurgency. It's a variant of the MG21, which is a good weapon. The mods and scope on it are pretty good too, but unfortunately it's held back by the terrible silencer and the soft target rounds, which means that the gun will work fine against most enemies, but you have so much trouble with armor targets that it's honestly not even worth considering. As with all the unique variants, the skin can be applied to the regular MG21, but I don't think the skin is all that special either. So don't worry if you can't do the insurgency this week, because to be honest, you're really not missing all that much. And that's all for the Pagan DLC items in the weekly reset. Remember to leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe if you don't want to miss our next Far Cry 6 video, and if you want, you can watch our previous video on all the new content coming to the game in 2022. For now, thanks so much for watching everyone, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye!